Hey everyone, I'm just popping on for what I hope will be a very brief video today to talk about a deck that is new to me, the Rider Tarot Deluxe. For those of you who follow Moonbaby's channel, Brant, you might have noticed that he had a couple videos out recently, one talking about a giant mega deck haul and another one talking about a deck trade. In his mega tarot haul video, he says that he had a copy of this in that haul, but had sent it out to a friend, Nancy. And then Nancy traded him this deck for University Books first edition. Long story short of the matter is when Brant initially got that Rider Tarot Deluxe deck, he reached out to me to see if I would want it. And I was all on that. I was like, yes, of course. I had just lost out on an auction for one. I was a little bit bummed. So, you know, I said, of course, Brant, that's super generous. Sent him some money. And I don't know, later on that day, I happened to be on Etsy and I found this deck. And the seller was asking $25 for it. I know, right? $25 for this deck? Are you kidding me? I very quickly looked over the listing to make sure it was all legit and bought it without thinking. And then I'm like, oh no, now I have two of them. Why? So I talked to Brant and Brant was like, oh, of course. Sent me my money back, which was so nice of him, and very quickly worked out a trade with Nancy. So everyone was happy when all this was said and done. I ended up with the Rider Tarot Deluxe. Nancy ended up with the Rider Tarot Deluxe, and Brant got an amazing copy of the University Books first edition. There's not actually too many videos on YouTube of the Rider Tarot Deluxe, so I thought that I would just flip through this one, just because I can. Right. This was published in two different versions. There's this particular one, which is the yellow box, blue box one. And then there's another one that has roses and lilies on the back. And that one was a copy of the original Rider Tarot. So they're an entirely different deck. They both, however, come in practically this identical box, which is a little bit confusing. It is a two-part box with like this little like slide envelope thing, really sturdy box here. And the only thing on the outer envelope is this Rider Tarot Deluxe. There's, you know, this little bit on the side, but that's about it. I think initially this was done in a more of a gold, a little bit like this, but it's faded with time, but that's cool. The inside box is also really neat. It's got this little like lift up top here with this little like tongue that goes into this little slot right down there. It just says Rider Tarot Deluxe in the top. There's nothing on the top surface or either of the sides. The bottom does say made in Switzerland by AGM, US Systems, Stanford, and then the back does say English edition, and then some brief stuff on the contents and your ISBN number. It looks so pretty when you open it up. It's kind of a neat little system. We've got this, you know, really cool thing here, Rider Tarot Deluxe all down the sides. And yeah, open it up. Oof. I don't know if you can see this. It goes right down into the box itself. And then just white there. So really nice presentation, I think. Okay, deck itself. Right. It does come with these two, I call them the advert cards. I don't know if anyone actually does have a name for them, but I've always called them the advert cards, the advertisement cards. I don't know if you can see this. Mine indicates that it was printed, the deck itself was printed while US Games was still at 38 East 32nd Street. They left that address in 1988. So the deck itself, I think, had to have been published probably, I don't know, 86, 87, 88, somewhere in there. We know that the rest of the stuff was printed when US Games was in fact in Stamford, as we can see here on the box. So to me, having this a bit of a transitional thing where we see this old address on the cards itself and the new address on the actual box indicates to me that this deck was probably published sometime in the late 80s, maybe early 90s, because US Games did have a lot of decks printed with this address that they continued to sell well into the 90s. But yeah, that's kind of neat. This cardstock is thick, right? This isn't the cardstock of the 1980s. It's a lot thicker, a lot shinier. It's still nice, but this is definitely like an early 90s cardstock. So there might have possibly even been some miscommunication between US Games and AGM. Maybe this was like, oh shoot, you should have in fact put a different address here. I don't know. I need to see more of these cards from more Rider Tarot Deluxe decks to be able to figure out, do I have some like random very early version, or if that's the way it in fact went. Advert cards aside though, this deck is so pretty. I don't know if this deck was hardly used, but that gilding is almost immaculate. Like, can you see that? Ring light. Like, it is bright and shiny and it feels amazing. It feels like it could cut glass. So cool. The cards themselves, pretty basic. Try to get this a little bit closer for you to see. You know, same art that we all know and love. Right? Less nuanced of a color printing, but all the lines are nice and sharp. The cards are solid. They're not terribly glossy. Like, yes, you can see some sheen coming off of that in the light, but this isn't like a high gloss situation at all. Oops. Well, there's Strength. There's the Hermit. So it's really a genuinely lovely deck, right? I don't think I would trade it for all the Teen China. Oh, that sounded like shade. I am so sorry. Brent definitely did, you know, need to trade his second copy, and he did a wonderful job of it. So that was not shade at all. I'm so sorry. I very much appreciate this deck. It was one that I thought maybe I didn't need in my collection, but when I had the opportunity to get it, I wasn't sorry. And now that I actually have it in my hands, like, wow. Like, if someone's very interested in the RWS, if they're interested in the US Games yellow box, if they're interested in gilded decks, this is kind of a bit of a must-have in my opinion. The Rider Tarot Deluxe, boom, this guy has been out of print since probably like the mid-90s, from what I can understand. However, if someone is interested in a gilded deck kind of like this from US Games, there is actually another one coming out later this year from what I understand, but not with the yellow box printing. If you're familiar with the Centennial deck, that will be coming out in the deluxe form with gold sides, gold edges, later on this year, which is pretty cool. I think maybe that's all I wanted to say about my deck. No, it isn't. Oh, this is so sloppy. I'm so sorry, guys. I did actually want to talk about this little white book. I don't know too many people who have copies of the Rider Tarot Deluxe, but if you are a person who has a copy of the Rider Tarot Deluxe, I would be very interested to know what your reprint edition is for your little white book. Mine is, as you can see here, 28. Right, that's actually a pretty early one. 27, they were still at 38 East 32nd. They did change to Stamford by Little White Book like 30, I think. I'll have to double check and see my records. I know Brant, on the copy he has, his Little White Book is, I think, like 51, 52, something like that. Figuring out what these reprint numbers are can actually kind of help me, at least, determine how long this deck was printed. For instance, if you did have a deck that was with a reprint number of like 51, 52, I would know that that deck was probably being sold new well into the 2000s. So yeah, if you do have a Rider Tarot Deluxe and you want to share with me what your Little White Book number is, I would very happily take that information and put it into my database of fun. So yeah, that's me showing off this deck. I'm in love with it. I think it's amazing. I think everyone should have one, and I hope you enjoy your day. Bye!